Welcome to B&W Insights. I am your host, Mark Siefert, and today we are live at WATERCON 2026. We're going to be talking today about people's water story. How did they get in the industry? How did they learn about water? And how did they know this is a space they're going to be in for their career? Ready? Let's get started. All right, up first, our first guest today is Mary Reed. And for all of you who don't recognize the name, I'm sure you may have gotten a letter from her. Any water operator who called down to the EPA over the past 29 years probably had a nice conversation with her. So thank you for joining us today, Mary.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and, how long have you been in the water industry?
Okay, so I kind of started into the water industry at Illinois EPA at the laboratory, doing the analysis for the initial disinfection byproducts before it was actually a regulation. So I did the analysis and then was offered the opportunity to move over to the drinking water compliance unit under the Division of Public Water Supplies to enforce the new regulation for the Consumer Confidence Report.
So you were able to be there at the ground level when it first came on board and saw the evolution of the CCRs throughout the different variations.
I have, yep. I was actually hired in compliance to administer the Consumer Confidence Report rule.
That is awesome. That is so cool.
In 1999, so.
So you really, throughout your history at the IEPA, were able to see the start of the CCR. I remember back when I first started in the industry, I was doing door tags. I was putting them on each doorknob, and then now we're able to put them on the websites using URLs. It's really cool how it's evolved over only 26 years.
Absolutely. And the scary thing is next year there's a new rule.
Right.
So they've revised the rule for the first time in many, many years. So
it'll be interesting to see operators how they're really handling that.
It's going to be a big change for next year for everybody.
So what first drew you into the water industry? When you went into the lab for the state, did you know you wanted to go into water, or what kind of brought you into this industry?
Nope, I really didn't. I was a biology major in school, so I was always interested in science and, all those types of things and the environment. And then when I got a job at the laboratory, I was able to finish my degree in biology, and then just this opening came up. So, it started out with the Consumer Confidence Report rule, and then I got pulled into the disinfection byproduct rule and surface water rule. And you kind of, once you get into it that far, you realize what an impact on the residents of the state of Illinois that you make. And the decisions you make and how you help the water operators produce the best water they can.
And now I know you moved on since, leaving the IEPA, you moved over to the Illinois Rural Water Association, and you're able to take that knowledge you've had at the IEPA and help so many people through the association. How's that been? So
when I was getting ready to retire in 2022, Frank Denmeyer, who's the executive director at Illinois Rural Water Association, came and said, we don't have this position, and it's not one that they normally have at rural water associations. I think Kentucky and one other state are the only ones with compliance assistance sections. And he's like, would you be interested in coming and working for us part-time in that capacity? So, he was just like, you have so much knowledge from the drinking water industry and the rules and regulations and compliance. We don't want to lose that.
Well, and that's kind of ironic. You started it with the EPA to forge the path for the CCRs, and now you're forging a new path at Illinois Rural Water. So maybe that's your calling.
Yeah, there you go.
So is there a moment that you really said, being in the water industry, this is where I belong?
I really think it's the day-to-day interactions with the operators and knowing that my knowledge of the regulations helps them to do their job and to produce the best water that they can. That's
such a challenge that so many operators have. They don't know who to reach out to, when to reach out, how to reach out. And when you started EPA, you were starting this new challenge. How did you know, to go? You walked in, I don't know anything about CCR. No one does. How did you overcome that challenge of just creating something new?
Yeah. Well, we got direction because it is a federal rule.
Right.
So it was implemented, from the federal government. So they gave us guidance documents and things from the federal part. But you have to read the rule and break it down into bullet points
Right.
and figure out what has to be included.
So how many years of WaterCon is this for you?
Oh gosh.
In the 20s?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, long time.
So
I've been a member, I think, for probably more than 20 years.
So you've seen the evolution of WaterCon from Springfield now to Peoria,
Yep.
and just the growth. And
Yep.
what's that one thing that stands out to you when you come here every year?
Absolutely, 100% is the networking with other people in the industry, whether it's the water operators or the engineers or the vendors. That networking face to face, I think, is invaluable.
That is awesome. Now, you know, there's so many we look around and there's so many young people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who's gone through the water industry, what's that piece of advice you would give someone who's starting their water journey now?
Probably the biggest thing I would tell them is to understand that even when the days are super hard and it seems like you can't get anywhere, what you do day in and day out makes a difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mary.
All right. You're very welcome.
And we're on to our next guest.
All right. Thank you.
All right, we're here with our next guest. He was in Elgin for 9 years and has now been the water treatment superintendent at the city of West Chicago. Eddie Ramos. How are you doing, Eddie?
Doing good. Thank you, Mark.
So we're talking here at WaterCon, and we look at, how are people getting into the water industry? What's their water story? So tell me a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in the industry. I see 12 years, but how did you get in this industry?
So it started in 2000.
Okay.
My first job was at the village of Rantoul, so just north of Champaign-Urbana.
Oh, wow. So you started way down south here.
Yeah. Well, I was going to school at U of I.
Okay.
Family was getting bigger. Times were changing. I needed to find a job. I started working different factories and things like that. My education, my studies were in chemical engineering.
Okay.
So I had a good chemistry background, a good math background, and a job popped up. In 2000, they were not that common.
No.
And I got really, really lucky. I ended up at Rantoul, so I got a good starting point, nice and small utility. Could learn all the things. It was Class A, so I got all that education and that learning process. I had a good supervisor, good mentor at the time.
Okay.
Helped me get started. So I spent about 4 years there.
Okay. So really, as I talk to people this week, I keep hearing a common theme of, I fell into this. I fell into water. It wasn't a life plan. So you obviously discovered water because you needed a job. You had your chemical engineering background. But what's that moment where it was like, this is where I belong? This is where I belong in the water industry.
When I moved to Chicago, so my kids moved up here. I wanted to follow and be close to them too. I got a job with HVAC water treatment.
Okay.
And that's at that point I realized, like, this is something I'm good at. I understand the process getting it here. I understand the process of what happens once it's at the resident or at the consumer. And I realized that I'm good at it. And usually when you're good at things, you want to keep doing them.
Absolutely.
And then I was like, this is what I wanted to do. So once I got here, it took me a while to fall back into utility. But once that happened, it was, I knew I wanted to do that.
Nice. So obviously when you're starting in a new industry and you went from the village ran tool, then you're getting to HVAC, you're going back to the village. What are some of those challenges you faced when you're really getting into this industry, and how did you overcome them?
So one of my really early challenges, especially in Rantoul, and again, this is where having a great mentor really helped. I had a bit of the know-it-allism. I was young.
Yeah.
I was a chemie. I already know this stuff. But he really pulled me back and taught me to learn.
Okay.
You do know the background. You do know the process. So let's just talk about what we do here and why. And he helped me realize that I don't know everything. My process isn't maybe always the best. And to take into account everybody else's input so that I can make the best decisions and go forward.
That's awesome. So obviously you started just in Village of Rantoul, moved you up into a superintendent. How did that progression go? And when you started in Rantoul, did you say, eventually I want to be a boss? I know you said you had a little bit of the know-it-allism, but did you know you wanted to be a boss?
Again, really good mentor. My whole role when he hired me in, I was young, had a good background in chemistry. My goal was to replace him.
Okay.
that was like straight out within the first 6 months. He's like, you will be my replacement if you stick it out here.
That's awesome.
And after that, you kind of get a taste for the bug. Like, people are propping you up.
Yeah.
You want to fulfill those things. That's another thing. You want to make sure you fulfill the things that people put out for you.
Yeah.
And pretty much from there, my trajectory was always continue to improve myself, continue to improve my title, continue to improve my role, and move up from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've been at WaterCon now. I know you were super involved. You have been on every committee probably. I think you're a vice chair now.
Vice chair of the Education Advisory Group.
So what do you look forward to every year when you come down here?
I really like the networking. It's really fits into my personality.
Yeah.
Getting around, talking, saying hi to the guys, helping, teaching. I don't do very many presentations here, but the moderating and even being a volunteer to help everybody learn how to use their app, get them sorted out.
Nice.
I really do enjoy this, the resource hub, getting everybody sorted
So
out.
you're helping the younger employees who I want to talk about now. You look around and I feel like maybe me and you are getting older, but you see so many young professionals here, and you just see the age of our industry is getting younger and younger. And if you're helping them with their app, or people are moderating or teaching, and what's that advice that you want to give people who are just starting their own water journey?
The same thing I learned: step back and learn. A lot of young professionals are gonna have a really good base in what they're starting in anyway. But sometimes you have to step back and just learn from the guys that have been in the field for a while. Book smarts is great, but sometimes field smarts really leads the way. Many people in my position now don't really have the field smarts, because at our age they started, in 2000 at 20 years old, so they got all the field smarts, but they might not have the background educationally.
Right.
And it's important for everybody to realize that's still a really smart guy.
Yeah.
There's good things you can learn something from I learn stuff from my new guys all the time.
That's awesome.
But
Lifelong learning.
That's all it is. Learn all the time, and you will always succeed in what you do.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Our next guest is the Education and Government Affairs Specialist from the Illinois section of the American Water Works Association, where she has been there for the last 3 years. Kaylee Spain, how are you doing?
I'm good.
So I know everybody here at the section and people across the state have seen your face. They've seen you running around. They see you in classes. But tell us a little about yourself and how did you get into the water industry?
Yeah. So I graduated college about 4 years ago.
Okay.
That's crazy to think out loud. But I studied environmental science when I was at Carthage College in Wisconsin. So I've always loved the environment. I've always loved, water. I've always loved animals and things like that, everything that it relates to the environment. So that's pretty much where I started my career with environmental science. But going back to many, many, many moons ago, I'm sure a lot of people know who my dad is, Joe Spain. He always instilled in us the reality that water was so important. So I actually remember as a kid, the videos of, the water cycle and things like that. He actually would bring them home and I would take them into class and make my class share those videos, and we would watch them, and it was a part of our...
So you were indoctrinated from birth. You were coming into the water field.
Yes. My dad is so passionate about water, and he always instilled that in us. We actually had, it was so funny, we actually had those shower timers in our bathrooms. The ones that you would change to make sure that you were only taking 5-minute showers.
So your dad was water conservation before water conservation was cool.
Yes.
That is cool to see that. And many people may not know your sister, Ashley.
Yes.
It works for the DuPage Water Commission.
She does. She's a little bit more like my dad than I am in a way, because she's got that engineering mindset. So she actually had that career pathway into water, I think, because of my dad. She chose water. I got really lucky with this opportunity. I didn't really know much about water other than kind of what my dad would teach me and what you would obviously learn in science class and things like that. And I actually went to college on Lake Michigan, so I just
it was perfect.
Got to see the lake every single day. But I never really took any other classes other than maybe one hydrology class in college. So I had no background knowledge. I'm not as technical as I think many people think I am when it comes to water.
But at an early age, you were teaching your classmates about the water cycle, so the education fits right in.
Yes. And that was something that was so cool. I remember that as a kid.
That's
it was always
awesome.
so fun.
So just to get it out of the way, your mom's not like a water chemist or something, right?
No.
Okay. So she's
my
nowhere near the water field.
No, but she worked for the village.
Okay.
So she has
knew all
that
about it.
utility perspective.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure dinner at the family dinner was was pretty interesting.
We always said, and it's kind of funny because everybody knows my dad. He worked for Norwich. Everybody knows that the water is just awesome. Number one, because it's Lake Michigan water.
Right.
But number two, everybody always says, oh, it's Joe Spain's the one that was doing the water.
Yeah.
And he was, the guy in charge. And everybody's like, oh, it's Joe Spain's water. And I was like, yeah, that's why it's so good. So it's a little bit of a hype thing to say as a kid.
So, you're only in this industry for last 4 years, three years, and you didn't have this chosen career path like your sister may have, where she was going into the water industry. Have you had that moment yet where you're like, I know this fits now. I know the water industry is where I need to be.
100%. So I had some utility experience when I first graduated college, and I knew right then and there that I was meant to be a public servant. I have so much public servant background from my parents and from my sister, and just kind of knowing that that background piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I always knew I wanted to go into public service. Now working for a nonprofit, I just get this different sense of importance now being in the water industry. And that's been really transformative for just knowing that this is one of the coolest industries I think that there's ever been. I will say there's so many passionate people in this industry. They will talk your ear off. And it's just so cool now knowing all of the background on so many different types of topics and being able to relay that in a different perspective, right? I don't have that technical piece, but I'm able to communicate with other people on the importance of the water industry.
So when you got into the section, this is a new path you were forging. It's not like you said, hey, I'm an engineer, I'm going to do this. This was a new, and now adding on that government affairs, what are some of those early challenges you faced, and really how did you overcome them with this new position?
So government affairs is something that, I do about 20% in my job. So a lot of it's 80% is education, about 20% is government affairs. So that still is for me a little bit of a challenge,
right?
Just because, there's so many changes, as as everybody else knows in this industry, there's so many changes going on to regulations and policies and different things like that. So that's been challenging for me to kind of keep up with. But I will say, as part of that government affairs piece of my job, I absolutely love it. We get to go to DC every year. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go this year because I'm here.
Yeah.
But we have some really great people out there in DC for us right now, educating our federal legislators and our senators about the important things that are going on. And I see it actually so much more now. I'm actually a homeowner now.
Okay.
So I just bought my house, and it was really funny because I saw in their newsletter that they send out that their water rates actually increased.
Right.
And I understand the background of why that had to increase now. But
Instead of just complaining about it, now you know why.
Yes, that is exactly right. I, as a resident, I was like, wow, I actually finally understand that. And that's why we go to DC and we educate and we talk about it. Because now being a constituent,
Now
I can say,
I pay the water bills now.
Hey, this shouldn't fall on the constituents, Help these utilities out, right? So that's the really important piece.
So this is your third WaterCon or fourth WaterCon?
Third.
Third WaterCon. What's your most favorite thing when you come down here?
Oh my goodness.
I know it's a busy week for you. It's a busy week, but when you look forward to it every year, what do you look forward to?
I look forward to seeing just everybody in one place. I think that is the coolest thing. Everybody always kind of knows who I am, and everybody's like, oh, you're the one that always sends all these emails. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And so it's just nice to actually put names and faces together.
Okay.
Because I email so many people so much out of the year, right? And a lot of people are from Southern Illinois or Central Illinois or really far West Illinois. So actually getting to connect with people has been incredible, and just like you said, bringing everybody together. It's so much fun. Section Social was really cool last night. I always enjoy that. We tried a new venue. Hopefully everybody liked it. So just things like that.
Awesome. Last question for you. You're still starting your water journey. Being here 3 years with a utility background, but for that person who's just graduating college, What's your advice for them and somebody who's just starting their water journey?
I would say don't give up because when I actually graduated college, it was a little bit difficult trying to find my footing. It was really challenging. I studied environmental science, and that was something that wasn't super direct, not like a nursing degree or a teacher degree or
There
things like that.
wasn't a job at the end of the tunnel.
No, not at all. And, the biggest thing that I have learned over the last 4 years is that you don't have to have one pathway.
No.
I think that growing up, I always kind of thought you would just have one job for the rest of your life. And that's not true. I mean, I've met so many people in so many different places. I had one person I met who was doing birding, like they were studying birds, and then they ended up being a doctor. Like, how do the two of those connect, right? So just kind of knowing those things, right? Like your story, your water story it doesn't have to be just one direct path, right? And so that's what I would tell somebody who's first graduating college. Don't give up, right? You can find your footing in, one area of the world and then find your footing in the water industry later, right? So I think that that's a big piece of advice I would give.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Here's our next guest. Our next guest is the water superintendent for the city of Rockford, where she's been employed for the last 15 years, Jamie Rote. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. So I am excited to talk to you. Obviously coming from one of the largest cities in the state, you've done the gamut of ISAWWA, been the president, been the chair, and really you've seen so much growth in this industry. So I'm really excited to talk to you about your water story. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how long have you been in the water industry? How did you get into the water industry?
So it's really interesting. When I first went to school, I was going to be, going for civil engineering, but thinking more about construction. So roadways, bridges. And I joined a consulting firm right out of school. And I was there about a year and a half. And then I started working for the village of Carpentersville. And that's really where I was introduced to that municipal world. I was a development engineer there. So reviewing plans, but getting the exposure to stormwater, sanitary, and water. So it was the whole gambit. And then when I moved to Rockford, that's really when the water industry took off for me. So I came in as a project manager, and I was assigned, a few developments, and they had a need to have water main inspected. And I was like, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll sign up for it. Like, I'm game. And so I started inspecting water main, and it took off from there. And, became a senior project manager, water engineer, and assistant water superintendent, and finally water superintendent. So it's been a whirlwind.
So many people I've talked to this week imitate your story of they didn't know they were going to go in the water industry. They were going to school for something else, and they found water and fell in love with water. It's crazy that so many people in this industry have such a similar story. And, you now being with Carpentersville and Rockford, running up for the, starting just as a project engineer all the way to now water superintendent. What was that moment where you said, this is my life? Water is what I want to do for the rest of it?
I think, when I think about that and reflect on it, that really happened in Rockford. And I want to say it was just the impact that you would have on your community. We're replacing water main, you're replacing a portion of the service, and you're meeting those community needs. And that was really that moment. And then being involved with so many projects, reservoirs and plants and all the treatment side, not just water main. So it was just like that point. So it's just, you're like, I enjoy doing this, right? Like, I'm serving the community. It's so fulfilling.
I love that. And that's, as I talk to people today, they feel that it's that public servant. You're serving the community you're working for. And, you have made many, changes in your career going from, Carpentersville where you're just a development engineer. So you're learning consistently. So as you learned in the industry, how did you overcome having to learn all these new things and new things and new things?
Well, part of it was just becoming involved with the section
Okay.
because you're meeting people with, similar interests and they have so much experience. Like here at WaterCon, you're meeting so many people, different experience levels, so much, just different exposures, how communities handle everything. And so part of that is, Rockford was very supportive. I was able to attend these sessions. I was able to go to trainings. And also it's relying on your coworkers, right? You're building your relationship with your coworkers. So then you're sharing information. So really what it comes down to is just interacting with people in the industry and at your place of work.
So this is your fifth, sixth, seventh WaterCon. Where are we at?
Oh, let's see. I would say this has got to be over 10.
All right. I was giving you a couple. So what do you look forward to when you come down here every year?
I look forward to the interaction, just sort of what I was mentioning before, that interaction, speaking with other, communities or vendors and seeing what they're experiencing and just talking about, what we're doing, what they're doing, how can we improve, and then building that relationship. Some of it too is just coming down and seeing people and being like, hey, how have you been? Tell me about it.
And so much in this industry, it's not like we're, as a water operator, we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to give our residents clean water, good pressure, and we're all doing it just maybe a little different way. So it's that experience of we're all going in the same direction, but how are you doing it? How am I doing it? What's that little thing I can learn from someone else?
Yep.
So as we talk to, and I keep mentioning, and it's kind of weird, like I sit here and I'm looking and the people walking by, the operators are getting younger and younger, or we're getting older and older. I haven't figured that one out yet.
I think they're just getting younger because we're staying the same age.
I agree. I have not aged. But as they're walking around, what's that one thing that you, as now a superintendent, are going or want to tell your young staff or somebody young when they come to WaterCon and they're starting their water journey? What's that one piece of advice that you learned that you want to pass along?
Get involved. So if you just want to volunteer, meet people, like that's really the big thing. Get involved, meet people, and start to expand that network.
That's how you learn.
Yep, that's exactly how you learn.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And on to our next guest. Our next guest on the podcast today is the regional manager for DN Tanks, Jacob Roundy. How you doing, Jacob?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Good. So we're talking today about water story, how you got in the industry, how you started talking about water. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how long have you been in this industry?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry about 7 years. Went to engineering school at UW-Madison and had a little bit of a water-related story through classes, whatever else. I wasn't familiar with AWWA or any of these type of organizations, but kind of, as I had mentioned, fell into the industry a little bit. I job shadowed a couple consultants between junior and senior year of school, and a couple of those were specific in the wastewater industry. So I was lucky enough to end up getting interviews, go through that process, and basically signed a job early senior year, which I was excited for because then I didn't feel like I had to prioritize school quite as much.
So your senior year, you do a little bit of relaxation and then get into the workforce. So what drew you into the water industry? When you were going to engineering school and you were doing that job shadowing, what made you say, I like this water stuff?
Yeah, I was always driven. I was outdoorsman, like hunting. The natural resources side of it, I really enjoyed. My dad was kind of an inspiration in that side. He was very much like in conservation and liked to give back through that. So I was involved in some organizations growing up, somewhat related to water and just being a conservationist.
Nice. I feel like anybody here today, as they walk around the hall, that's the two things we have in common are water, and we all love the environment. We're all water people, and most of us are outdoors. We like being outdoors, and that's just a common thread amongst most of us here at WaterCon. What's that moment where you said, I made the right choice, I love water, I've made it, this is where I know I want to be?
Yeah, I think through my first 4 years as a consultant, I was more behind a desk, right? Yeah. And I felt like I wanted to be a little more client-facing, a little out in the open, talking to people. And doing that and getting more involved in organizations is what allowed me to see that it's a tight-knit community. I feel like you hear people say that all the time in this industry, but it truly is. And it's truly made me appreciate the industry and the people that are willing to give time to volunteer for stuff, which is a great example here at WaterCon, how many people are involved in volunteering. And that part's been really cool to me.
You see at WaterCon, all the people wearing the baby blue shirts that say WaterCon volunteer, and it feels like every time somebody walks by, there's at least one person wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
So you made the change from a consulting firm to then the almost construction side at DN Tanks. Going into the tank industry is something new for you, and that had to be a challenge and a big learning curve. How did you overcome that challenge of having to learn about a totally new sort of industry?
Yeah, I think, excuse me, coming from doing wastewater, water design, right? And then going into tanks, I knew nothing about tanks. So it was more so, I want to get out in that sales business development role. And this seemed like it was really the culture of the company through my interview process that I liked DN. And through that, I said, well, I'm just going to have to kind of drink out of the fire hose for a few months and figure it out as I go, right? It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to not know what's going on.
That's
as long
awesome.
as I'm supported through my company, I feel comfortable doing this.
That's awesome. Now, if you've been coming to WATERCON 7 years, 4 years, how many years have you been coming down here?
I think this is my third year.
Oh, your third year. Okay, so you didn't come as a consultant, you more come on the DN Tank side. As this being, you're only your third one, what do you look forward to coming down here every year?
I think it's at that third year mark, this year especially, I feel like I know a lot of people. So it's really enjoyable coming here, seeing a lot of familiar faces, but also being more involved, being part of the raffle and getting asked to do things like this. Or last year I spoke on the YP panel, and just going to different events and different social settings and being familiar with a lot of people and having those fun conversations and, being outgoing and social.
Yeah, and this is one of those events where as a young professional, you watch. A lot of the other guests have sat here and we're talking and looking, and we're like, man, everybody walks by is getting younger and younger and younger, and that's really good to see for the future of our industry. Yeah. That there are so many young professionals here. They're learning. They want to learn. So as I look forward to talking to you, what's that one thing that you've seen or heard down here from maybe an older professional or something you've seen or learned that keeps you wanting to keep going? So I know these are long days, and it's one of those, what makes you keep going and say, I want to come back, I want to keep doing this, this is my spot?
The thing, kind of two parts of that, but the thing I really like is the older people in this industry are so passionate about it. If you go to a technical session or just have a conversation with them, you can tell that most of them been in it a really long time, and they love it. They love the community. They love how they're providing for the world and, with safe water. And I think that's really cool to see. And also it's the fact that they seem very respectful to the YPs, right? All the conversations I have, it's not like I'm older than you, we can't talk.
Right.
They want to help you. They want to help younger people feel comfortable and get involved in the industry. So it's another avenue of them showing that they care.
Last question I have for you is, you're just starting your water journey as a young professional. What's something a piece of advice that you've learned from someone else that you'd pass along to another YP?
I think coming into it, starting to come to these conferences, it was very much, I'm uncomfortable. I don't know anyone. Why does everyone, it seems like they're all best friends type of thing, right? And I had a couple different people, actually one person who worked at Baxter & Woodman, come up to me and just have a conversation with me, right? They could tell I was out of place, didn't really feel like I fit in. And just seeing how they've been in that position before, they wanted to step up, help out, make me feel like I'm in a good place. That really meant something to me. That was cool.
That's
right?
awesome.
And I want to be able to do that to the younger generation as I get more comfortable and I know more people. When I see people in that situation, I want to help them out that way.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Our last guest on the podcast today serves as one of 6 AWWA vice presidents. He is the director of the Virginia section of the AWWA, and also in his spare time, his full-time job is a construction project manager for Ramboll out of the New York City office. Kevin Smith, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So we're talking today about everybody's water story. How did they get into the water industry? What made them want to join the water industry? So tell me a little bit about yourself. Of how did you, know, or how did you join the water industry?
So it started when I was a little kid.
Okay.
My father worked for a chemical company in New Jersey, and they very much polluted the groundwater, amongst other things, in our town. And a childhood cancer cluster emerged as a result
Holy
of it.
cow.
And we were moved elsewhere to another state.
Holy
so
cow.
I knew that disruption, for me it was a disruption. For other people it was a lot worse. But I knew that I wanted to do something with my life to make sure that kind of thing didn't happen.
So as we talk to people today, a lot of people kind of fell into the water industry, but it seems like you actually knew that as a purpose. You, from a young age, I want to go in the water field. I want to help people. I want to do this. And that's actually so awesome to see that you followed through with it.
Yeah.
So many people we talk to today are like, oh, I went to school to be this and I found water.
Right.
So when you got drawn into the water industry, did you always want to do construction, or kind of did you want to do design, or how did that?
I didn't really know. I thought when I was younger that I would do something related to like groundwater remediation or something like that. But I started out working for the City of Virginia Beach Department of Public Utilities, started working in water and wastewater and stormwater, and then was transferred to New York City and started working in construction. I really liked.
Okay.
It takes a special breed to work with New York City contractors every day, but I really like it.
So I could imagine that it's the contractors there are a little tougher and a little more gruff than other places in the country. But
You could say that.
what is when you found construction, what was that time where you said, I belong in construction? I know this is what I want to do forever.
It was a project that we had in Queens. We dredged Flushing Bay.
Oh, wow.
Right by LaGuardia Airport. I loved being out there on the bay. Our construction trailer was at the World's Fair Marina, right next to the City Field where the Mets play.
So you were in the thick of it.
I was just loving all of it.
That is really cool. So some of your project, I mean, that's a monster project. That is huge.
Yeah, it was great.
So how, we're also talking today about like challenges of learning something new. And when you get told, hey, you're going to be on the project manager for dredging Flushing Bay, how do you walk into there saying, have you ever done a dredging project like that? Or how do you,
I had not.
How do you go into a project like that and say, I've never done this. This is a monster project. What do I do next?
Fortunately, New York City has a lot of SOPs
Okay.
for everything.
Okay.
So it's probably one of the most bureaucratic agencies in the entire world. So it's no matter the project, there are still similar processes.
Okay.
And I had a great team that I could work with.
That is awesome. Now, in talking beforehand, you mentioned Virginia has Water Jam.
Yes.
We're at WaterCon.
Yep.
Walking around now for the last 24 hours, what's your first impression of WaterCon?
WaterCon is great. There are a few things I've observed here that I haven't seen at other conferences. I just left the committee luncheon, where people come to learn about committees and sign up for committees. That's a great idea. The other end of the exhibit hall, there's the presentation space for vendors, which is really cool. I haven't seen that before. And yesterday there was a model water tower building competition. I haven't seen that either. I'm glad you're able to see some things. And as you travel to other water events around the country, you can now take some of the things you've seen here. Absolutely.
And obviously, when you're at Water Jam in Virginia, what's the one thing when you go to a conference like this that you really look forward to?
Meeting people, talking to people. All these. Everyone in the water industry has so much in common, but we're all really different too, especially as you travel around the country. The issues are different, projects are different, but the people at all of these conferences, they feel like they're coming to a family reunion of sorts.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked to people who've come to this as their 20th, 15th. And they say, there's people I see here only. I see them once a year. I see them at WaterCon. And you're right, it's a family reunion.
Totally.
Do you have plans to go to any other water conferences this year besides your own?
I will, but I don't know what.
Okay.
Yet. Those assignments haven't come out, so there will be at least one or two in the fall.
Nice. So you get to see the country, you get to see different parts, you get to experience all the different water professionals. And I think one thing I see when even going across the state or going across our different offices is what you said previously of the water industry. We all might be a little different, but we all have that same vision, that same goal, that same mission. So do you see that across the country too?
Absolutely.
It's so good to hear that we're all going towards that same common goal. Last question I have for you today is, you had a water story, you had a childhood experience that really pushed you into the water. For the people who are just starting their water journey, as you walk around, there's a lot of young professionals. What's that piece of advice you have for the young professionals who are here at their first WaterCon, just getting out of college, their first operations job? What do you have for them?
I would say for them to keep their eyes on the prize, because most of us start out managing spreadsheets and crunching numbers, and you might not see the bigger picture, but you are all part of something much bigger than yourselves, and everyone's really making a huge difference for the entire world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks. Wow, listening to those conversations really enforces how cool every individual person's water journey is. From someone whose family is in the water industry, to people who kind of fell into the industry, to those who had a passion for their entire career. WATERCON is a place that brings all of those people together and really lets anyone who's down here meet a new friend and learn. For our entire team here at Baxter Women, like, share, subscribe. Have a great day.